is, I don't know, like 2 sentences tops, because
I'd say the second half defense.
Welcome back, Mighty Vandals. The Tubs at the Club, brought to you tonight by Snake River Stampede Whiskey. We are the Idaho Vandals affiliate on the Big Sky Podcast Network. Brian, I am your host, Dallas Hammer, and you are brave, bold Brian Marceau, as we come to you all instantly after Idaho's soul-crushing 28-14 loss to number 11 UC Davis. Brian, as James says in the comment section, sad Dallas noises. That is pretty much spot on.
At the very least, fatigued Dallas noises.
Yeah. Dallas has had a long week and took
long enough to be speaking in third person.
Yeah. It took the 9 hours today to say, hey, you know what would be really good for me and this week? Vandal football. Couldn't have been more wrong about that one. Crewhead 76. Well, let's just hope to see some more improvement in these last 2 games. And that is really what we have to hang the hats on here, ladies and gentlemen. Idaho came out flat, like always. Did not look particularly great to start the game against UC Davis. Nick Weber, soul crushing, more like Wavos crushing. And yes, it was like getting kicked in the balls for 90 minutes. Honestly, I know that was a 60-minute football game, but it felt longer than that. Brian, I will let you get to this at some point, but UC Davis rattled off the first 2 touchdowns, ended up 14-0 at the end of the first quarter. Idaho did end up scoring again very quickly into the second quarter of a 68-yard pass to Michael Graves. Really nice to see him have a career game, first of his 2 touchdowns today. But Idaho goes into half 21-7. Then UC Davis scores to make it 28-7, and Idaho mostly just floundered around until the fourth quarter, where they got another Michael Graves touchdown to make it 28-14 and make it feel significantly closer than this game actually ever was, Brian.
I mean, there's a little bit more than just floundering. We did have that fourth down pick on the 4-yard line. But no, I guess before we talk further, let's pretend you are not listening to the show live. There's no way everyone who's listening to the show live either was at the game or watched the game. There's no exception here. Let's pretend you did not. And you're like, well, hey, 28-14. That's not catastrophic, right? This was a really weird game because UC Davis, let's say, did not show a ton of killer instinct. Now, to be credit, there is some good stuff we'll talk about Idaho defensively in a second. But this was a game that could have been, honestly, an OT game, if not for a couple timely Idaho mistakes. This also could have been a 56-point win by UC Davis if UC Davis had any ability to put their hands on Idaho's throat through this game, because UC Davis radically outplayed Idaho for virtually the entire game. So I know it was just 14. I know that if you're trying to look on the bright side, which if that's what you're looking for, Dallas and I are on the show, Martin's not. You came to the wrong place. If that's what you're looking for, though, hey, well, whatever. Top 10 team, 2-score game plus that late pick Brian just made reference to, that's not too bad. No. No. There's no one who should have left this game happy. And I just got back in town. I have not been able to listen to Ford's presser, but full disclosure, sounds like must-see YouTube type TV if you're a person who is, let's say, a little bit touchy about what happened offensively. But Dallas, I think we should just get to this. Let everyone know. Hey, Tubbs of the Club, presented by Snake River Stampede Canadian Whisky, and we're around the bar. And I'm not going to step on that. Look, we have an A-game ad reader with us, and it's not me. So, Dallas, I'm not stopping you from this one. Jesus Christ, Dallas, for the love of God, that is a vintage mute.
That is a rough one. It has been
there is
really
no
long.
mute. No mute's ever gonna beat me on my old Sunday show where I accidentally went for 5 to 8 minutes on mute, and Max and Patty were just in the comment section laughing their ass off, staying just to see the moment when I realized what was going on. But that was pretty close.
That was getting up there. It is late. It has been a long week. But if you are looking for a great all-inclusive week-long vacation, do not look past your backyard. Hughes River Expeditions has been vandal-owned and operated since 1976, and they're ready to take you on the vacation of a lifetime. Enjoy a multi-day trip down the middle fork of the Salmon, the main Salmon River of No Return, the Salmon River Canyons, or even the Selway. And you can check out special trips like one to see the Perseid meteor shower. Camp on pristine beaches, run amazing whitewater, hike scenic trails, spot wildlife, soak in beautiful natural hot springs. And guys, the same thing I say every week, fish the most remote stretches of river in the entire United States. All you got to do is just bring some clothes. HRE is going to handle everything else. Grab a paddle, catch dinner, and ride the bull all throughout the Gem State. Call them now, 406-540-4450, or check them out at hughesriver.com. Brian, before we get into what didn't go well, because there's a whole lot we can talk about there, what did go well for the Vandals today?
Second half defensive adjustments went well for Idaho. And my reference point here is Davis scored 21 of their 28 in the first half. Actually, Idaho played relatively good defense at the very end of the second quarter. Because Idaho, for the third time, found themselves in the position of tried to do something offensively at the end of the second quarter. And, oh, Jesus Christ, guys, it's going to happen again. We're going to get fucking buried with another late touchdown, man.
Anybody ever seen Team America World Police, the unrated version, where the puppets just start shitting all over each other's chests? That was like watching Idaho football offensively.
Yeah, but hey, defensively, they did buckle up a lot. Hey, 2 picks in the second half. Only allowed 7 points, and this wasn't this wasn't, Davis didn't mercy rule Idaho at the end here. legitimately, the Vandals held Davis to 7 points in the second half. Had they gotten, I mean, look, they needed a lot more help from the offense, but relative to especially how the first half went, it would have been hard defensively for things to go better in the second half. Caden Pinnock shredded Idaho in the first half, did not shred Idaho in the second half. Caden Pinnock was passing heading into this game well over around in between 70 and 75% on the Big Sky season. Incredible goddamn numbers. And he looked that part in the first half against Idaho, but no, like the Vandals did buckle up for the most part in the second half. You know, your first half, we had Dallas and I got to sit together for part of the game. In the first half, what you deemed as one punting situation, right, for Davis in the entire first half. I haven't looked up the exact numbers of punts, but like Idaho did force a few punts in the second half, plus those 2 picks. So I guess the credit I'd give here, we'll talk about this in another end. I feel that because a team is where Idaho is sub 500. We know talent needs to change, but we know that this can't be an apex coaching job across the board, right? I feel that Court Dennison has shown, if you're one of the things you want to use to explain why Idaho is where they are, if one of the things you want to point to is youth inexperience in the coaching staff, what you should also be able to point to is, hey, subpar at the start of the season, not linear progression, but an obvious upward trajectory as we close the season. I think that mostly does describe the Court Dennison experience of Idaho football. And I think the second half is a great example of that. Like we did see adjustments in the second half, man. If that's something you've been wanting to see, they're here with the same guys who've had the same limitations they've had the entire year. So that to me is what went well. Largely, there were a few big plays offensively that went well too, but like the big generalizable thing is, I mean, the UC Davis is a good offensive team, and Idaho holding them to 28, like that's not nothing. On the conference season, Davis is scoring. Sorry, on the on the conference season, Davis is scoring 34 a game. On the regular season, 31.7. So no, like this was not a terrible defensive outing by any means.
Yeah, as Crud 76 says in the comment section, Dennison gets another year vote from me. The 3-man front still blows. And then Nick Weber saying Davis tried a novel concept. Their secondary was beat up, so they brought a lot of pressure to help cover for secondary liabilities. We still have a handful of those moments a game where I think everyone and their dog scratches their head wondering what Court Dennison just did out there. The 3-man pressure, drop 8 guys in coverage, and then all of a sudden, hey, 32-yard pass completion by UC Davis. Weird. Never could have seen that coming. Haven't seen that happen all year long. So that can get very frustrating very quickly. But outside of, again, those handful of times that it seems to happen early in the games, this defense does buckle down, and they do make the adjustments, and Dennison does find ways to get the defense to, again, there's not any point that it felt like this was going to be a game where they scored 28 points. You say going into this, Davis scores 28 points, and you're probably thinking Vandal victory. Now, part of that is based off of, again, a missed field goal, a blocked field goal, couple interceptions. Like a lot of things had to happen to keep UC Davis at 28 points. But, man, you look at what this team has done defensively, and yes, it's gone up and down, and it has not certainly been a linear progression by any means. I think it's pretty safe to say the defense is the best position, the best side of the ball between offense, defense, and special teams. What's the side of the ball that's holding up their end of the bargain significantly more often than not? It's the Vandal defense. Yes, it can be a little bit frustrating to watch them at times. Honestly, I think in what we're seeing a lot of is there's just not a lot of talent there. I mean, there is, but not the way that a top team in the FCS should have. You go back and look at the last 3 years of Jason Eck. If you bring back all of the guys that transferred out that are still playing college football, this is a top 25 defense in the country across all levels of football. So I do give Dennison a little bit of benefit of the doubt there of, man, this team we know has been picked over the last handful of years. what I'm seeing out of Denison on that side of the ball is, hey, they might not have all the pieces that they're looking for, but they are finding ways to get it done. And that's not something I can say about either of the other portions of the football team, Brian.
Yeah, a couple other things that went well are not trying to blow over that Dallas, just like, hey, 100%, 100% co-signed. Attendance was pretty good. Just under 11,000 people there. It just sucks so bad this year that the two best attended games, Idaho in one way or another, just shits the bed. Really frustrating, because I have been talking about Idaho fandom. I consider myself realistic. Others may think I'm a little harsh, but Idaho fans are fickle and sometimes pussies. And the fact that the team is sub 500, and with how bad homecoming was, I thought like just under 11,000 was actually a really good showing attendance wise. And obviously this hits in the second half where we'll get into more detail, but yeah, this like shitting the bed when we have good attendance.
A good attendance.
Just can't happen. Just can't have that happen. And then I guess a couple other things really quick. Mike, I mean, you already hit it, but Michael Graves had a very good game. Would have loved to see more Graves throughout the season, but we knew he's injury prone, right?
He's been this guy for his whole career here.
Yeah, that's not like a judgment, but he is injury prone. 3 catches for 112 yards and 2 touchdowns, including a 68 yarder and 35 yarder was the other one.
Yep.
Yeah. That's a pretty damn big performance out of Graves. So yeah, I've kind of exhausted what went well in my mind, other than acknowledging Caleb Ricks and Hayden John had the 2 picks.
Yeah, that went well. Isaiah King had a sack, and to Ford's credit, he called that out in the press conference afterwards, that it's hard to get to Pinnock, and hey, 1 sack is at least something. There are plenty of teams that haven't done that. So, there's a couple things that went well. Deuce Blenman had a couple pass breakups. Zach Krotzer in an all-time football IQ move, drew what was maybe the most hilarious unsportsmanlike call I've ever seen. Honestly, Oscar-worthy performance by Krotzer.
And I loved him laughing his ass off right after the flag was thrown.
Just perfect, absolutely perfect. Shout out to Spokane's own Zach Krotzer there. Man, that felt like that could have meant something had Idaho not completely shit down their pants the entire second half. Nick Weber also pointing out, don't forget, Wood hit a couple huge fades. So there were some small little things that we could take as positives. As you can tell, Brian and I are both really grasping at straws here.
We'll say both of those were not deep towards the sideline. Yeah, but still, Wood just had not hit deep over the shoulder throws really this season. And other than maybe that you could say that back of the end zone to McCraney against top 5 Portland State, which barely counts. That is very much like doing it with no defense there.
Yeah.
Doing that twice.
D3 school.
No, yeah, I mean there wasn't nothing, but the second half of the show is not going to be half the show.
No, it is not. So before we get into all of the shit that didn't go well, which is going to be a lot, guys, we got to shout out one of the things that is going well. There's vandalgear.com for all of your Vandal needs. We're talking t-shirts, hoodies, sweatshirts. You want it? They've pretty much got it. You can hop on the catalog right now, vandalgear.com. They've got the Fightin' Taters gear. They've got retro Vandal football gear. They've got stuff for the Vandalizers. They've got some pretty generic stuff, just like a Vandal helmet with Joe on the side of it. Like, man, it's the best place to go get Vandal gear because it's also the cheapest place to get Vandal gear. It's super high quality. I'm currently wearing the Fightin' Taters sweatshirt and t-shirt underneath it. We've also been wearing the Subdue shirt. That's a special for the Patreons of Tubs of the Club, but again, printed by the nice people at vandalgear.com. The actual company is Pacific Custom Sportswear. They're here in Spokane, Washington, been around for more than 25 years, working with the U of I to print, again, their own gear for vandalgear.com, as well as gear that's actually sold in the university bookstore. But if you're thinking, man, I need some t-shirts printed, or I need something with my own design or my company logo, man, they're going to throw it on just about anything you could think of. I've been down to the Pacific Custom Sportswear office. It's just 10-15 minutes down the road from me. Walked in there, and man, Jeff has so many different colors of shirts, a bunch of different mugs, hats, you name it, he's going to be able to throw your stuff on it. Pacific Custom Sportswear and vandalgear.com. Brian, Tom Kendall in the comment section mentioning, I got my Vandal Gear t-shirt last week. Very nice. Thank you, Tom. Brian, now the fun begins. Let's talk about what didn't go well. And I'm going to let you just take the wheel here. And we're going to just hopefully crash this bus into every single bit that didn't go well, which is a lot.
Well, I mean, hey, we already intimated one, but I don't want to bail on it. Idaho, again, has a great crowd and shits the bed. That is not insignificant. But as far as the game itself, Idaho's a clusterfuck offensively. Absolute clusterfuck. And don't look at the end of the game stats. It's, again, like sometimes box scores are misleading, and you really need to watch the game and have an idea about the flow of the game. So, again, you might think, well, hey, Brian, what in God's name is your problem? What, UC Davis outgains Idaho by 18 total yards, 448 to 430? Like, how is that a problem? Okay, one, Idaho could not run the ball whatsoever. I don't care. And Dallas, you and I have a slight disagreement on like percentages with what we think Idaho should rush, like whatever. There's no one who in the comment section can go to run the damn football, because Idaho was worthless running the ball this game. There was a single run by Eli Cummings. It was a 44-yard run. Awesome run, right? But if other than that made up for 44 of Idaho's 133 yards rushing on the game. Minus that one 44-yard rush, Idaho rushed it 25 times for 89 yards. That's 3.5 yards a rush. If you then remove Nate Thomas,
I want to jump in very quick, because you're going to bring up Nate Thomas. So if you also take out Nolan McWilliams and Joshua Wood's biggest runs, that's 87 rushing yards on 4 plays.
Yeah, which then means there was like 50 on the other 21 rushes. Idaho was worthless running the ball today. Absolutely unable to do it in any sort of meaningful way. Idaho had a few times where they just sprinted, like in the second half, too. I'm sitting next to Dallas. I moved, my 4-year-old was with us, so we can hang out, have a good time. There are a couple times where I swear I goddamn blinked and Idaho's on 4th down. Like they just could not run whatsoever. The downside being, we might be like, well, okay, well, they could pass the ball, right? Yeah, so Joshua Wood passed for just under 300 yards on the day. That's a deceiving total as well. He was 20 of 38 for 297 yards, 2 touchdowns, and a pick. Now, what's deceiving? That was a backbreaking pick. Wood doesn't make a ton of mistakes. That was a huge pick. That was was the difference between a touchdown and
brutal
game over. Wood also lost another touchdown when Nolan McWilliams stepped out of bounds before catching it. Maybe you call that a freshman mistake, but like, hey, that's why one of the things I talked about earlier. This feels like this game could have been overtime, or they could have lost by 56.
For what it's worth, Thomas Ford said in the post-game press conference that it is a true freshman mistake and something you don't expect guys beyond true freshmen to do.
Yeah. But Idaho through the air, they moved it on 3 big plays. The 2 Graves passes, plus a pass to Marquand McCraney there's a total of there are 3 plays at 68, 45, and 35 as the long pass plays that account for 148 of Woods' 297 yards. So that remnant is, other than those 3 plays, Wood passed it 35 times for 149 yards, aka 4 yards a pass.
Yeah.
What that means is, Idaho could, this is essentially Jack Wagner offense. Like Idaho could not move the ball on the ground. They couldn't move the ball very well through the air. And that's it, man. That's how you score 14 points.
Yeah. I mean, the offense fucking sucks, and there's nothing you can say that isn't that. I mean, 3 for 17 on 3rd and 4th down. Just absolutely despicable. Just horrible football. You look at like Eli Cummings, 10 for 58, and yeah, he had the 44-yard bust out. Well, that means excuse me, I take that back. With the 6 yards he lost, he gained a positive 52 yards. So his other carries, he had 9 carries for 8 yards. Nate Thomas had that 17-yard carry. Well, then he also had one other carry that had nothing, and that was it. Hayden Kinchlow got 1 carry for 4 yards. McWilliams had the reverse. Man, just the Idaho ground game got nowhere today, and that's also because you rushed to being down by multiple scores immediately. And so it becomes very difficult to run the ball when you're down 21 for most of the game, or down 14 for the entire final 3 quarters. It just is tough. Crew at 76 in the comment section saying Wood could have picked up more yards with his feet, but he isn't decisive. I would gently push back. I do not think Joshua Wood is healthy. I think Joshua Wood is there is something wrong with him. And it can be some sort of, just like the dings and cuts and scrapes and nicks that you take over the course of a year, especially as a running quarterback. It could be that knee is maybe not fully healthy. I'm not sure, but there is a very obvious change in the way Joshua Wood attacks the open space in front of him. It was never the most decisive before, but Brian, he does not look to have the extra step and silky smooth movements that he had. He still is a great threat in the running game, but it is not quite the same as it was at the beginning of the year.
Oh no, that part is obvious to me. That's obvious. That's post injury, since he's come back, because he's taken a few more sacks post injury, where he's just not getting away from guys the way he effortlessly did earlier in the year. And like you said, I don't disagree with him looking less decisive, but I think it's because he's trying to not get hurt, and he's trying to straddle that line of dealing with his limitations but still doing what he can to help Idaho win. And I think it's just pretty damn obvious. You can see the difference has been post injury. I do want to hit one thing before I give it back to you, Dallas. Tom Kendall in the comments section says, yeah, but you can't minus those big runs I was referencing, and saying keep running, it will get you more runs. Okay, here's what I'm saying. I'm not saying that you don't account for plays that took place. I'm saying Idaho quit running the football because other than those 3 individual times, they were getting 1 and 2 goddamn yards total. That was a huge part of Idaho getting to 3rd down so damn fast and getting to 4th down so damn fast. You are not wrong, Tom, to acknowledge that a lot of the passing game certainly wasn't better. But when you rush on 2nd and 10 or 2nd and 8, and now you're 3rd and 7, well, what else are you supposed to do? Like, the big issue is that offensively, it was just the whole thing was broken today. That's the point of saying it was only a few big plays, both through the air and on the ground, is nothing was working. And like Tom's saying, well, hey, rush it more. I'd say, well, if they rushed it more, they probably would have got the shitty outcome they have. Now, Tom's going to say, well, they passed it more and they got a shitty outcome. Yes, of course. They just sucked on both. Offensively, Idaho just sucked today. That was it.
Mm-hmm. And that, Brian, that's what, we've talked about this before, especially in the context of a bad loss at home. But, for everything that we spoke earlier about, and the defense obviously doesn't have the horses, but Dennison is throwing shit at the wall, and yeah, it doesn't work all the time. And man, I would really love to stop seeing the 3 down linemen putting pressure while 8 guys drop into coverage. I'd love to just stop that. I don't want to see that again. As Nick Weber pointed out, hey, look, UC Davis's secondary is crazy banged up. Maybe let's put a little bit more pressure on the quarterback and help them out. Crazy. It's amazing how that works. It's like earth-shattering defensive football right there. But you go back to the press conference, and Thomas Ford is very obviously upset with this offense. Very obviously upset with, he mentioned the 3 for 17 stat I pulled, 1 for 11 on third down, 2 for 6 on fourth down. And he even said it, just the offensive game plan was bad. It wasn't a good game plan. It comes down to third down and you don't know what you're going to do because you don't have it planned. And that to me, some of the ways he was saying some of that was the same thing we've talked about, Brian, that yes, there's also a lack of horses on the offense. The receiving room has been decimated by graduations and transfers.
Drops and mistakes hurt pretty bad today.
Yes. Oh boy. Though not great. Ryan Jesiaro, probably his worst game as a Vandal, unfortunately.
Yeah, not a put down to him, or sorry, not meaning to call him out because he has been one of the most reliable receivers on the year. But the last couple of games, the dude's just had some trouble. And this game, I mean, I don't have the exact numbers, and one of them he got hurt on, so maybe take that one away. But he dropped at least 4 passes, and some of them were tough. That you like maybe it's not precisely a drop, but there were at least 4 passes that were catchable that dude had his hands on that didn't come down. If 3 of them, if he comes down with 3 of them, that would change things for Idaho significantly.
And some of that comes to, Joshua Wood has to get the ball out faster. And he also needs a little bit better blocking sometimes. Today was probably the worst showing from the offensive line, which is unfortunate because it's been the group that I would say has been the strongest and most consistent throughout the year. Obviously, there have been times they've struggled, but just not a great push in the run game. Not a ton of time for Wood in the passing game. But you again go back to Jesiaro. I would say right now he's the unquestioned number 1 receiver on the Vandals. As Ross Warren says, he's been hurt since San Jose State. I think if he was not hurt, I would say he's the number 1 option for the Vandals. Man, if Hamper and Dwyer are still here because they don't transfer out, Jesiaro is probably the best number 3 option in the entire Big Sky. But right now he's serving as the number 1 guy as a redshirt freshman that was not expected to be in that role. Nolan McWilliams, true freshman, playing snaps he probably wasn't expected to be playing. Marquand McCraney, maybe we expected this, but also he was hurt, and so he's behind the ball. It just, you can see that there is a lack of depth here offensively. But, Brian, it gets to a point when what the fuck is going on out here? Watching Idaho go from 12 personnel with both tight ends on the line of scrimmage to 11 personnel with the tight end lined up in the slot, just on a whim. Like it does not seem to be planned. It does not seem to be like we know what the attack is going to be. It's hey, that play didn't work, so we're going to completely change the personnel and see if this is going to work. It doesn't feel like there's any sort of real cohesion to it. It also doesn't feel like Idaho's going in with the plan of these are the few things that we're really good at and we're going to stick to this. It feels like we've got a 400-page playbook. One of these has to be good. Let's sift through it and find it. And it just, I know I'm rambling a lot here, but I am fully out on this offense. I do not think it's going to turn around until there is a change made at the leadership position, because it just does not feel like the growth that we're seeing defensively of, hey, yeah, Caleb Rick's really good. Deuce Blenman has had some nice moments, has also had some down moments, but we see the young guys in the secondary getting better, the young guys on the defense getting better. I'm not seeing that on the offense the way I should be, Brian. Not to the point that we shouldn't be talking about this team struggling to put up double-digit points after Idaho State just fucking mushroom stamped UC Davis last week. Offensively, this team has got a lot of work to do, and I don't know that the coaching staff that is there is going to be able to get it done.
I think it's very kind of you to put it lightly that way. My Dallas and I are famous for saying the exact same thing in a 1% different way. My version of that is, we got 2 weeks left in the season. I don't think Idaho knows who the hell they are offensively. There are absolutely limitations. Hey, Ross Warren in the comments section, I only saw 2 pass plays that were completed in the structure of the play call. Yeah, I mean, like, hey, we're like, again, trying to be fair. There's not one single thing that explains why this Idaho team is gonna very likely has a very good chance of finishing sub 500, right? It's obviously not one thing would fix everything. So, what you look at is the trajectory that we've belabored on this show, talking defensively. You can look at individual players and see a trajectory that's worth paying attention to. Marquand McCraney is a great example.
Yep.
Nolan McWilliams too. Those are just two guys. And I think Joshua Wood as a passer it's not been linear improvement, but you do got to keep in mind it's the first dude's first year as a starting quarterback who's being relied upon to beat teams with his arm. And we have seen some improvements, like, hey, those 2 deep passes he completed, those are right on. And honestly, there could have been quite easily a third one. Jez Yarrow dropped it. It was a tough catch, but it was also there. So, hey, if that becomes part of Wood's arsenal, awesome. And you say that's just part of that's the progression improvement. Dallas, you got a point.
The great ball he threw to Nolan McWilliams in the back of the end zone, who just unfortunately it was illegal touching because he stepped out without being forced out.
Yeah,
stepped right back into play, caught the touchdown. Incredible catch, right inside the line, but instead of what should have been a game-tying touchdown was Idaho gives up the ball on 4th down.
I do want to talk about officiating for a second because I know I was at the game. People are pretty upset about officiating. And full disclosure, guys, officials are not why Idaho lost this game. The 2 huge penalties in the first half. The first, there was on the first drive of the game, roughing the passer call on Matthias McLean. Was that an iffy call? Yeah. Could McLean have gone without just touching the guy and been fine? Absolutely. Absolutely, guys. You control what you can control. You cannot control if the refs are going to be super tight on some things or not on the others or fluctuate back and forth. The level of player is the level of official. So, hey, just keep that in mind. That means the refs aren't going to be perfect. But you can take that instance down to a 0% risk by just not putting your hands on the guy. And Matthias McLean, who has been a bright spot on the D-line, hey, that was a mental mistake. It ended up costing Idaho 7 points. The penalty on McWilliams, he just stepped out of bounds, guys. Those 2 penalties cost Idaho 14 points in, 7 points that Davis scored and 7 points are wiped off the board for Idaho. This was a 14-point game in spite of how poorly Idaho played. This was still theoretically a winnable game for the Vandals. And a thing I'm going to go back to on the refs is pretty goddamn even as far as total penalties, total yardage from penalties. Both teams probably feel like they got screwed over. But, hey, both teams had 6 penalties. Davis for 49 yards, Idaho 54. We already acknowledged one that I bet Davis fans are going to be pissed about, which is the Krotzer penalty where it was an acting job, but whatever. It still got the call. I was astonished that got a 15-yard penalty, but whatever. And then, hey, also like the unsportsmanlike penalty on Joshua Wood after the touchdown, a little bit touchy, but Woods had 3 or 4 celebration penalties. He's just got to get better at not getting those. And that did hurt Idaho for the next drive.
Brian, again, this could be another 4-hour talk, but Idaho's special teams are fucking terrible. And Trace Higgins is going to be the wrath of me here, but this is not just isolated to Trace Higgins. Why the fuck are our receivers trying to take the ball out of the fucking end zone? Oh my fucking God. You guys are not very good at catching the ball. You're not very good at getting separation. Why the fuck are you running out of the goddamn end zone? Trace Higgins did that on the first fucking play of the game. Idaho gets the ball on the 13 instead of the 25. And then, sure enough, UC Davis on another kickoff, Higgins runs it out of the end zone and fumbles it back to UC Davis. Stop running out of the end zone. This is not a team that has explosive returners. This is not a team that is good at special teams and even okay at special teams. Stop it. Jermaine Jackson is not back there. Abraham Williams is not back there. Fucking Junior Alexander is not back there. For the love of God, if the ball is coming anywhere near the painted grass, just let it hit the fucking turf or fair catch it in the end zone. Stop it. Just stop it.
Oh, well, Dallas, there hasn't been 1 second since Alexander went down before the season started where anyone, I'm talking Idaho, I'm talking opposition, there's not been 1 second where anyone has seen an Idaho player catch a kickoff in the end zone, start running, and say anything other than, well, that's not going to go very far.
Yep. It's mental mistakes, man. Tom Kendall 92. I need to change it. Special teams leadership, man. Crewhead 76. Special teams fucking blows, man. For everything Thomas Ford did in his 2 years as a special teams coordinator here, I have not seen any bit of that come around here, and I think that's because Thomas Ford is a pretty hands-off coach. Likes the CEO style approach. Obviously spoke about having to take more of a role in the offense. Well, I'm starting to wonder. I know he's real close with Coach Fendall. Man, there might need to be a change at the special teams coordinator here too, because this has not gotten a whole lot better. Cameron Pope moving to punter was a revelation, but that felt like it was out of necessity.
So on the special teams thing for you, Dallas, the thing that I land on, I'm sure you're here too, is look, Idaho they don't have great punters. Pope has done better, but like no one's confusing him with a like all Big Sky level guy. We just know the field goal kickers are not very good at Idaho this year, so like that's just not going to get better. We know the kick returners. We've known that from like the first kick return. Like if they're having Zach Lustig at some point like returning kicks, it's because they have no answer. We know that that's not going to like change over talent wise. But the thing that I'm guessing you're on is it's been astonishing that limitations have not seemed to become like foundational to the game planning, AKA like, hey, for example, like returning punts. Why are like the fair catches within the 10-yard line? Why in God's name are those happening? Or returning any kick out of the end zone? Why in God's name is that happening? Why not just say like, no, like our ceiling is a touchback. We need to do everything we can to have as many touchbacks as possible, including gamble on, ball going over our head if we're standing on that 10-yard line that, hey, we might get a crappy bounce, but whatever. They're not all going to be crappy bounces. And every fair catch you have at the 10, you are starting at the 10.
Mm-hmm. And that's again, we've spoken so much about the depth of this team is just not there. Ford came in and kept a good portion of this roster together, but the reality is this roster was picked over pretty hard the previous 3 years. And Ford said that both at the post game event at Best Western, as well as in the actual post game press conference himself, said that, hey, there's probably not a lot of guys on this team that can transfer out because nobody's really played well enough to be pulled out. And again, this is a team that's 4-6, could go 6-6, could also go 4-8. There's not going to be a whole lot of people clamoring for the Vandals in the portal like they were. I mean, don't get me wrong. There's definitely guys that could go, and there's probably guys that will go that we don't want to go. But this does not look like the mass exodus of the last 3 seasons. So with that said, I understand your special teams is a lot of your depth. That's obviously going to be impacted by Idaho doesn't have enough horses to field a starting offense and defense the way they had the last few years. But I'm not seeing any improvement in the special teams, Brian, and that's where things are getting nuts. It seems like just on the whole, I still have no fucking idea why Thomas Ford approved going out and trying to kick a field goal down 28-7. What does that do for you? Going from 28-7 to 28-10, that's still a game where you have to score 3 touchdowns. Well, I guess theoretically you could have scored 2 touchdowns, 2 2-point conversions and kicked a field goal, but It's a 3-possession game that you're turning into a 3-possession game. You need a touchdown here. Field goal doesn't do anything for you. And we're continuing to see shit like that at a macro level of, cool, you kicked a field goal that was not successful to turn a 3-possession game into a 3-possession game. Awesome. Great job there. Math is really hard. I know that. But wow. But then there are the things like, why are the returners running the ball out of the end zone? Why? It's at so many levels, Brian, that I question if special teams is ever going to turn around, because it is that abhorrent at every single level of the team.
I don't have a ton of pushback.
There's really not a lot of pushback. Right?
I mean, especially with kick return, punt return, we've been saying the same thing on the show the entire year.
Yeah. Then that's what's so frustrating about this, Brian, is here we are in week 10 or week 11 or 12 or whatever when you count the buys in. We're after game 10 of 12, and we are talking about special teams has not improved. The offense really does not seem to have improved. The defense does seem to be figuring things out, and for the most part have improved across the course of the season, but certainly can't say that about the offense or the special teams right now. And that's the most frustrating thing in a year that obviously we all had these high expectations that were too high. But when you reform those expectations to understand this is a team that you're looking to see growth and you're looking to see things to build on for next year, there are a lot more question marks than answers right now.
Well, I mean, yeah, look, we're not going to get some of these things. I don't think are really going to be answered by anything other than when the season ends. Expect there will be guys who leave, because not everyone who transfers out because they think there's greener pastures. Some guys get scholarships pulled, or some guys get told, hey, if you're going to have to play a different position if you think you're going to try to get to the field. Some people are cool with that. Like, hey, Braden Rice shifted from wide receiver to safety, and he's seeing the field, right? Some people are cool with that. Some people are not cool with that. It just depends on who you are. But I mean, I think that we're pretty clear on the jury's in. Defensively, there are limitations for sure, but it's trending up. Offense and special teams. Well, special teams, the ceiling is like a C- anyway. But it also feels like it wouldn't be hard to hit that C-. Just quit returning kicks, guys. Jesus. Offensively is the thing that I've been going on and on about the entire damn season. You have at times too. And I don't really know what tryout you have these last two games, Dallas, because I think if you don't know your answer in game 2, with 2 games left in the season, you will never know the answer. Yep. And what we're looking at as Vandal fans is we're looking for individual player accomplishment. Like, hey, can Wood continue to hit a few more deep strikes? Can the receivers get open a little bit more so that some of the times where it feels like Wood's holding the ball a long time, it's not a lot. I mean, I'm not saying Wood hits every single open guy, sees him right away, but some of the times when Wood is extending plays, like no one's open. So like who in God's name is he supposed to throw it to when he's extending those plays? And that was a problem today. A handful of those times he's running around in the backfield because there's nobody with any sort of separation. Yeah. But I mean, honestly, unless McCraney has a step to take to become like a number 1 receiver, and I think he would be the guy you'd point to is most likely because of, he's still, I mean, if he missed camp and he's just kind of getting into shape now, there's still some growth left. But he's kind of uniquely the guy on this team saying, hey, he looks like he might be able to grow into a number 1 receiver. But otherwise, I mean, Idaho just needs better receivers, guys. Just like Idaho needs more. They need, no disrespect to the contributions for guys on the D line whatsoever, but Idaho needs D linemen who can get to the quarterback, right? That's what you're looking for in scope of the season. Crewhead 76. Can we not throw a damn quick slant? Well, that's the other thing that Dallas, I mean, like, hey, I haven't got to listen to the post game, but I just, with the critiques Thomas Ford has been publicly making offensively, I feel like there's at least one really, really, really hot seat in the coaching room. And that'd be offensive coordinator at this point. I don't know how you could interpret anything but that at this point. Yeah, I would agree with that. I've heard coaches say worse. I was there when Mike Leach fired a special teams coordinator in season.
So I've seen guys lose their jobs in season before, but man, some of the ways Ford was talking about the offense in the post game was certainly felt like the bat signal is out for somebody to come help, and that somebody to come help might not be on this staff. And some of the ways that help could be coming might be staff reorganization or subtractions, because it's not a good sign when the coach goes from talking about, again, the stats to just outright saying the game plan was not good enough, and that there was just not a plan for third down, and there was just not enough preparation and things like that. That's not a good sign, especially when earlier the speak was, we gotta focus on simplifying things, and we're trying to do too much. Well, if we're both trying to do too much and not enough, that sounds to me like somebody's in way over their head. So
yeah, no pushback. Tom Kendall saying, is Axman still available?
I mean, Paul Petrino is, because that's basically what our offensive coordinator has essentially turned into. So, yeah, it as there's Crewhead also dropping it in. This offense reminds me of Axhole. It really does. I know both of you guys are making jokes about Axman, but man, Steve Axman knew offensive football in the 1980s, and unfortunately for him, that didn't really carry over to the end of the 2000s and the beginning of the 2010s. And we are looking like we're in that same spot right now of the coordinator just does not seem to understand getting the ball to his guys in space, and simple, easy throws, easy reads. It's just not there, Brian.
Or, I mean, some of the stuff you talked about too of just go to tempo, man. Like go to tempo, do some quick passes to get so Wood can get people open. By the way, some stuff we saw with Jason Eck too. Jason Eck did that periodically with Jack Lane, absolutely. Where look, I know Jack Lane and Joshua Wood are not the same quarterbacks. I'm not saying that to compare the two. I'm just saying that, like, Cody Hawkins in the interview that we published during the preseason, when I talked Cody Hawkins at Media Day, he talked about part of why he did what he did at Idaho State his first year is because you can pass the ball with a shitty O-line. You just get the ball out really fast, and guys have to make plays on the catch.
Yeah,
that transcends Idaho State. Like that, Idaho could do that as well. And I'm going to go back to, we hit the panic button, right? Scoring 14 points against Eastern, but backups were playing. We didn't have backups playing today. We didn't have weather to blame. We didn't have some sort of hostile crowd to blame. We hit Davis on severe injury issues. There is no team in the Big Sky who's taken a bigger hit due to injuries, especially on the defensive side of the ball, than UC Davis. That Davis team held us to 14 points, and Syke is a good getting the quarterback. Minus Syke, the Connors brothers are out. So like they're two of their three best defensive guys, including the best defensive guy in the league. They weren't even on the field for this game, and Idaho still put up 14 points.
Yeah. I mean, Brian, what are we drinking tonight? Because I feel like I need about 700 shots of it to even get through the next 5 minutes of this show, much less however long it's going to go.
Snake River Stampede Canadian whiskey, man. Look, it's the best Canadian whiskey you're going to get in the state of Idaho. You got two options, your entry-level Stampede or your 1915 small batch. Both are 3-grain whiskeys. Both are, you'll need to click on that whiskey tab, man. Both have double barrel finishes. The Stampede finished in ex-bourbon Oloroso sherry cask. Your 1915, in addition to being aged an extra 2 years, it's finished as ex-bourbon, ex-Canadian rye whiskey cask. It doesn't matter which one you pick, although I'm probably not reaching up for the 1915 to celebrate tonight's loss for sure. But look, it doesn't matter which one you get. They're both fantastic whiskeys. They are both fantastic buys at $39 for the 1915, $26 for the Stampede. Get yourself to an Idaho State liquor store. Grab yourself a Snake River today. That is an MVP level mute, Dallas.
My God, I am struggling. Any final thoughts, Brian? I feel like we've covered just about everything I wanted to get at, which is the defense looks pretty good. Special teams is not getting better. Offense is getting worse.
Patreon.com/Tubs the Club. Support the show. One of the best place to go. Well, not one of the best place to go to talk Idaho football, especially the game threads. Now, was the game thread a happy place to be today, Dallas? Absolutely not. But like Idaho scored 14 points in front of their second largest crowd of the season. Like, what in God's name is it supposed to be? But anyway, Patreon.com/Tubs the Club Sports Show. I think we could spend like 10 seconds going over players of the game because I think it's legitimately a 10-second discussion. For me, on the defensive side of the ball, I'm going to go with Isaiah King, 2 TFLs, a sack, 8 total tackles. And offensively, that one is a little bit tough to actually want to pick anyone.
I mean,
Michael Graves, 2 touchdowns. Michael Graves, he had two receiving touchdowns.
It's Michael Graves, not a single chance it's going to be anybody than Michael Graves. 2 touchdowns, 112 yards, both career highs for him. Probably going to be his career highs. I cannot imagine he's going to break those in the next 2 games. Would love to see it, but we've seen the Graves injury history. I'm guessing this was the peak of the Graves era. Awesome to see him do that. I would have loved to have gotten that more. I would have loved for it to have happened in a win, but it is what it is. I think Isaiah King is a fine choice for defensive player of the game because he's the best player on the defense, and he's typically the guy who's getting a sack or a TFL. I'm going to go with the oddball pick. I'm going to go with Zach Krotzer because in a different world, that dumbass thing he did to kick them out of field goal range and eventually save Idaho at least 3 points, that would have mattered. Had Idaho had even half competent offensive output in the second half, that shit would have mattered. And I love seeing that when a guy is out there using his brain to trick the officials into free 15 yards, man, do that shit more. I love that. Unfortunately, it didn't mean anything in the grand scheme of things because, again, the offense was held to 7 points in the first half and 7 points in the second half. If the offense does not do that, that could have been a really key play for Idaho there, and instead,
that just hits the point that for me, of even with all that happened, if McWilliams doesn't step out of bounds on that pass, and if Wood doesn't throw a pick on that other, it's a tie game.
Yep. Or
however, again, UC Davis could have won
roughing the passer,
yeah. However, UC Davis could have easily won this game by 40.
They could have decided not to give Jordan Fisher 21 carries and 41 total carries for the day.
That was, oh my God, that is just astounding to me. That anyway,
27 throws and 41 carries is certainly a choice, Tim Plow.
I know, my God. Now, I mean, hey, the Samuel Butu had 4 carries for 44 yards as a receiver, and Idaho has been susceptible to reverses the entire season. So that one I get, but I man, that was flooring to me because if just like the NAU game, seriously, this is the route you're going to go. Like, if you're going to keep Idaho in the game, go ahead, guys.
Yeah, thank you.
Maybe it makes you feel better because our standard does not have to be that coaches have to hit a home run every goddamn play of the game. UC Davis is cruising into potentially skipping the first round of the playoffs. Probably won't, but they're still in the running for it, right? And Plow, I don't know how you would say if you were a Davis fan, you're kind of pissed about the offensive game plan that Plow called. It didn't ultimately matter because of how bad Idaho was offensively, but yeah, Plow kept Idaho in the game.
Yeah, and honestly, shouldn't have that. They could have put up 50 plus had they truly tried. I think that would have been real ugly, real bad. As Tom Kindle 92 says, out coaches us every year. Man, I'm so sick of Davis out coaching the Vandals. I thought that was a big Hawkins thing. It wasn't, because Plow has now done it multiple times. Just sick of UC Davis having the Vandals number.
Well, I don't know if I would call this. I mean, look, you're not wrong to call it out coaching, but Plow didn't light the world on fire. Anyway, thank you, Nick Weber. He plowed a path for us. Thank you, Nick Weber, MVP of the comment section, even if he's wrong about my take on the ref. Yeah, I saw that, Nick. But this game was in some ways miserable because Davis could have won by 40, but also Davis was doing everything to give this game away to Idaho, and Idaho just could not do it.
I mean, Brian, I think that's what's most infuriating about this team, and I think that's kind of my final thought here. Is this is a team that sits on the razor's edge of being a 10-win football team or a 0-10 football team right now. Like you can go back to almost every single game Idaho has played, and you can do that of like, man, even Montana, the what I would call the worst game. Obviously, the Northern Colorado game with backups is different, but you go to the Montana game, the game I would say that Idaho was not particularly close in, and you can still go back and say, man, if they treated the first half like they did the second half, man, there's a chance here. It hasn't been any sort of god awful, ugly blowouts. Again, Northern Colorado is maybe that, but it's also a backup quarterback that shouldn't have been playing. It just sucks. It sucks seeing how close this team is to being a very good football team, and then finding the places that it falls short so painfully, so goddamn painfully, Brian.
Yeah, no, we're not talking next season. By the way, can I give you a different MVP award to us for telling people, God damn it, don't worry about the fucking playoffs until there's a UC Davis win? Yeah. Because I mean that's part of why I was not devastated about it. It's like no, dude, like until they, I know I was the idiot who went the heart over head pick this last week, but I've always been open. Like until that Davis is a W, Idaho has no prayer of the playoffs. I will say, just based off how the team is, maybe it's best to have been put out of our misery in this week, because I would be 100% expecting, even if Idaho did pick up the W this week, let's just pretend, hey, Davis plays as shitty as they do, and Idaho doesn't oblige and not put the game away. Like Mick Williams doesn't step out of bounds, Wood doesn't throw a pick, and Idaho somehow comes away in OT. Let's say that happens, okay? Idaho's would lose to Sac State next week, or they'd get killed by Idaho, or worse, they'd cruise into that last game of the season, and Cody Hawkins will throw it 75 times if he needs to.
Man, at least we don't have that heartbreak. That's a good point, Brian. You lose that game, and it's like, well, who gives a shit? You weren't going to make the playoffs anyways. We all kind of watched the season come crumbling to an end. Oh boy, could you imagine being at 7 wins going into that game and thinking, going into 6, thinking you could be getting 7, and maybe, just maybe, with those ranked wins against UCD and NAU, you got a shot. And Cody Hawkins again chucks the ball 70 times to end it. Hey, bright side, now when he throws 70 times on Idaho and they win 45-30, season's already over.
Yeah, that season is. Guys getting better, of course, is not over. And that for Idaho is, that's where the end of the season is. And hey, to be fair, that's where the end of the season is for most teams in the nation. That, when you've been in the playoffs 3 years in a row, finishing the top 8 2 years in a row, it sucks to acknowledge that, but it's where Idaho is. I do agree with you. This team feels like it's not that far away from being like just getting into the playoff level. Not like top 8. No, they're not close. Talent wise, they're not close to top 8. But like you also said, the things holding Idaho back are pretty damn big, and some of which feel like they're not going to change without change in personnel.
Yeah, as Ross Bourne says in the comment section, the only answer is for Ford to clean house on coaches and players that are not buying in. I would also say coaches that are in over their heads. But that's again, we're talking a 1% difference in the tone there. Crew at 76. At least the team hasn't given up. Like that's the big thing for me. I want to make sure that, hey, I want to see that over the next 2 games. If the team doesn't give up, that does mean a lot. Because now, again, Brian, we did not talk too much playoffs because it was you have to beat UC Davis, and they haven't done that since the drop down. As you and Martin discussed on the preview show, 1987 was the last time that Idaho beat UC Davis.
Discussed for a very, very, very long time.
I don't know how much of the team knew that going in. Like, hey, if we win out, playoffs are still on the table, and we can still do all the things that we talked about. Well, now it is officially off the table. So do you nut up or do you shut up? And that's what I want to see is Idaho at least do a little bit of the nut up over the next couple weeks and not give up. Don't go down without a fight. And that's where we begin, Brian. November 8th, 2025. We are officially on to how do we build for next season.
Yep. We probably need to call it night, Dallas. You're doing a great job, but it is clearly your bedtime. It's been Martin's bedtime for 7 hours. The only thing I'm going to close on is not football related. It's keep your eyes on the basketball teams, guys. We still have probably 3 weeks of football, right, Dallas? Because we'll have the next 2 games. Probably not going to do an Idaho State post game. Because by the way, that's just how we've been, guys, to close the year. Doesn't seem really worth it to do a post game on the last game of the season because there are no the takeaways we will clearly discuss in the closing the book on the season. So we've got about 3 weeks of football, but keep your eyes on both basketball teams. They both look, again, cautiously optimistic, right? Both teams look like they could be taking steps this year. So we get to finish football season before Thanksgiving this year, but that means you get to pay attention to basketball season a little bit earlier. That's what I'm doing. For all our live listeners, we got in excess of 20, some people not on Pacific time. Thanks for tuning in tonight. And until next time, man, Visa up, go Vandals.
Yeah, Visa up, go Vandals, go Hawaii Pacific Sharks, fuck Boise State, and fuck most of the rest of the teams in the Big Sky, honestly, at this point. Fuck them all.
Did you fucking...